Hey there, I'm Jessica, and this is the God Loves Justice podcast, where we take the big and sometimes intimidating topic of biblical justice and righteousness and break it down into smaller, more digestible parts. We look at justice in pieces, so no one episode is the full picture, but in each episode, we get to see part of that biblical justice picture. I'm the author of the book, God Loves Justice, a user-friendly guide to biblical justice and righteousness. Welcome to today's episode. I like to call it Bruised Reeds and Smoldering Wicks. And those phrases come from a prophetic passage in Isaiah 42. So today we're going to look at a beautiful messianic prophecy in Isaiah 42 that tell us about the justice that the Messiah, Jesus, is going to bring. It tells us who this justice is for and how Jesus is going to do this justice. What I really love about this passage is that it's not only in Isaiah 42 that we can read it, it's also in Matthew 12. So we get to read about this first in Isaiah and then again in the middle of the story of Jesus. The book of Matthew tells us the story of how Jesus was born. It gives us the Sermon on the Mount. It gives us all of these great teachings from Jesus. And then kind of in the middle-ish of the book, it gives a requote of this prophecy from the book of Isaiah about Jesus and the justice that he's going to bring. And I love this passage because it tells us, who is this justice for? How does Jesus do it? And so I'm going to read out of Isaiah 42, 1 through 4 in the ESV. I'm not going to read the whole passage as it sounds in Matthew 12. I will, at the end, pull out a phrase from it that I really, really love. So I'm going to read Isaiah 42. Behold my servant whom I uphold, my chosen in whom my soul delights. I have put my spirit upon him. He will bring forth justice, mishpat, to the nations. He will not cry aloud or lift up his voice or make it heard on the street. A bruised reed he will not break, and a faintly burning wick he will not quench. He will faithfully bring forth justice, mishpat. He will not grow faint or be discouraged till he has established justice, mishpat, in the earth, and the coastlines wait for his law. So what does this passage tell us about this justice, this mishpat? What I love is that we hear in the Old Testament that justice, it was a key part of the people of God. It was a key part of the Jews and their world and their culture and their law. And now, after the Messiah comes, mishpat, it's not just for Israel. It's not just for the Jews. It's for everybody. Mishpat is going to the nations. So Jews and Gentiles, everybody gets to benefit from the justice of God, from Jesus's justice. And how is Jesus going to bring this justice? If you were to tell me God is coming in a person and coming to the earth to bring justice, I would probably picture somebody who is really big and really loud and really important and probably like in front of an army or on a big throne or something like that on earth. But that's not the picture we get in Isaiah 42. Jesus doesn't go around crying out in frustration or screaming for people to pay attention to him or just telling everybody what to do. He brings justice to the nations through meekness and through gentleness, not through violence and through force. And I want to highlight two of the images that we see in Isaiah that tell us about the people that Jesus is going to bring justice to. The first one is a bruised reed. So it says, a bruised reed he will not break. What was a bruised reed? So at the time when Isaiah was writing, reeds were kind of a common, everyday, very cheap material. It wasn't something that was really valuable. So it was kind of like paper. If you wrinkle up a piece of paper and you can't write on it anymore, you don't like spend hours trying to fix the piece of paper. You just throw it away and you get a new piece of paper. It's not something that's so important that you spend your time fixing when it's broken. And it's kind of similar at the time of Isaiah. The use of the reed was gone and there was plenty more reed to replace them. So if a reed got bruised, you threw it away and you moved on. And that's the picture of the type of people that Jesus is coming to save. The people who either the world considers them or maybe they consider themselves useless, easily replaceable, and not important. Those are the people that Jesus is going to bring justice to. And the second image is a smoldering wick. So think of an oil lamp. You have a lamp that's filled with oil and you have a wick in it that you light, and the purpose is that the lamp produces light. So wicks and oil lamps, they would smolder when the oil ran out. So after the oil ran out, the wick went from producing light to producing smoke. It started to smolder. So their purpose of creating light it had ended. So this picture together of bruised reeds and smoldering wicks, it represent people who were viewed as useless or cast off by the world, or maybe that's how they viewed themselves. And they are a key part of the justice that Jesus is going to bring. Jesus' purpose is to save, not destroy, including saving those that the world casts off as without value or without use any longer. And I'm going to end by pulling out a phrase that I really love in Matthew 12. So let's read that whole phrase about the bruised reeds and the smoldering wicks in Matthew 12. It says, "He will not quarrel or cry aloud, nor will anyone hear his voice in the streets. A bruised reed he will not break, and a smoldering wick he will not quench, until he brings justice to victory." So Jesus, what does he do? He brings mishpat to victory. Israel on its own could never bring justice to victory. They kept messing up. They never actually lived out the ideal of justice, although we do get some stories of people doing a good job with it. Israel as a whole did not do a good job with it. But who comes and does justice on our behalf? It's Jesus. And Jesus, he brings our justice to victory. He is our victorious justice. So as much as it's challenging and it's hard to live out justice in the world, there's a lot of injustice in our own lives, in the world around us. As much as we may see it, it's so important that we remember that we live from victorious justice. We live from the work of Jesus. He is our justice. And from there, we get to live out justice in the world. And yes, it takes work. And yes, it takes effort. But we should not be afraid of injustice when Jesus is our victorious justice, and we get the honor and the privilege of living that out in the world today. So thank you for joining me today. We looked at a passage in Isaiah 42 that's later quoted in Matthew 12 about the mishpat, the justice that Jesus brings to the world, how he does it and who he does it for. And again, we get to live from his victorious justice. If you would like more notes on today's show, you can look in the description of the podcast. There should be a link to the show notes for today. You can also go on godlovesjustice.com/podcast, and you should be able to find the show notes there. You can find me online, godlovesjustice.com, and Facebook and Instagram at godlovesjustice.